just go generally into locations. I mean, the locations are very specific, and you find them more that you're on the water. And there are ways. You start off generally, and then you start to refine them. I mean, your tide changes, particularly your big tide changes, are great on the headlands. North Head for the last 3 years has probably been the pick. You know, when you look at Craig and Nick picked up a 130, a 125 and a 127 in one day. Very specific. Once again, you've learned to love your sounder, you've learned to read your GPS. And it's that old man's hat, little trip along there. It's not very specific. You just have to watch where it's on the sounder. So those headlands are great for the tide changes. Now the buoys in the harbour, they change from year to year to year. We used to fish only the wedding cakes. And the wedding cakes have been pretty quiet the last 2 years, apart from a 10-day burst last year on the eastern wedding cake where there are big fish all over the place. They're always worth a spot, but the wedding cakes in particular are a high tide spot because they're only in 11 metres of water. So if you're going to fish the wedding cakes, the rule of thumb there is where you've got the white paint, you want to only see the paint. As soon as you can actually see the stuff below the paint, you know it's dropped down too low and the fish tend to move off. Your deeper spots in the harbour, you definitely... Clifton Gardens is a totally underestimated spot. Now you look around Clifton Gardens, there's nothing there. Don't fish right close to that buoy. Everybody goes and sits on that bleeding buoy. If you look on your sounder, it ledges down fast and you fish on those ledges. And you fish mid-water in about 23 metres of water, halfway down, and the fish come through. They're not going to that buoy, it's too shallow. The rats go to that buoy, the bigger fish are wider. There are with the buoys as well. Particularly on the weekend where there's crowds, you've got to anchor. And if you're going to anchor, you've always got to anchor up current. You want your arse pointing towards the buoy. You want your bait into the buoy. You don't want it facing away because the fish will always sit with their nose into the current. Now, if they move away, so you've got to start jogging. You want to get there just before the tide change and sit on the other side of everybody else because they've got to move to you. And definitely with particularly the markers like Old Yellow and the Sticks and places like that, high tidal flow. The more flow, the more go. You want your 1.8, and I have a definite preference for the last 2 hours of the run in and the first 4 hours of the run out. If I was to go fishing for one day a month, it would be on the new moon with a 1.8 metre high tide at 9 o'clock. I've done the squidding first, I've then got the time for the tide to come in, and then the big change out. Now, particularly that yellow marker and the Sticks, because that high flow gets rid of the leather jackets. They can't hold it, so pushing them away. And yeah, weekends, well, you're just going to have to be polite. Try and say hello to the guy you're nudging against. It's just, and if he starts throwing burley at him, yell at him. It's just, this is why I don't fish on the weekend. So I think